Jamie, based on today's sermon, in a very pragmatic sense, what are some of the things that we can do to move from a theological or verbal acceptance of pain and suffering to true behavioral acceptance that glorifies God?
That's a good question. And in fact, it's a $10 question of how is it when we do a theology of pain and suffering, do we get to the point where it's not just, okay, yeah, I get it verbally, but because it becomes really a part of our being, part of our feeling structure and thinking structure, and as the question was asked, even our behaving structure. And again, I don't know of any other way to say it except that the number one thing to do is just engage in the battle. Be a player, not on the sidelines, but be a player on the field. And when it comes to pain and suffering, what that means is that instead of spending the majority of your energy wishing that it weren't so, or even trying to get out of all the stuff that you're in, submit it to God and come before God and lay it before God, all of who you are, good, bad, and the ugly. And as you lay it before God, see what He does with that. I'll tell you a story. I remember a few years ago, well, probably about 15 years ago, I was seeing a counselor when I was a pastor in Detroit. And for 2 years, I saw this counselor there, and each week I'd come in and I'd just, like you do with a counselor, unload my problems on him, my pastoral problems and the issues I was going through as a young pastor and all that. And I'll never forget one day I came in and I just took about 20 minutes to unload all my previous week upon him, and I'll never forget, he just sat there. And he looked at me. He said, yeah, okay, I hear your problems. And I remember looking at him, his name was Bill, and I said, well, tell me for $80 an hour that you got something more than that. Tell me you got something more than, yeah, these are your problems. And I'll never forget, he looked at me and he said, Jamie, he said, you had a bad week. You got some difficult things going on in your life right now. He said, there's nothing we can do about them. They're not going away fast. They are what they are. Now let's talk about how you can live under God with the realities that are in your life. And I'll never forget that. A guy helping me learn not to fight all the things in my life. As Larry Crabb would say, not to have a demanding spirit that God would take them away, or to fight like crazy in the flesh to try to solve all my problems on my own, but to be with them and to lay them out before God. And I think that's really the key to an eventual acceptance of struggles in life beyond just intellectual, but really start to feel them, to just be with them in the presence of God and learn to live with them, especially the things that aren't going to go away fast, certainly things that we can solve, we should, but learn to live with them and before God have peace with them.
Thank you, Jamie.